Okay, so welcome to all of you. This is a wonderful, lively group. You're putting me on my toes. This is class five, and so we have this class left and two more classes, and then class eight. So could you all mute your mute, please? Yeah. Oh, that's great. Everyone should mute, and then we'll have a conversation in a bit. So tonight we're going to go over Frida Kahlo. Next week, Paula Madison Becker. Uh, and the last artist, Egon Schiele's Landscapes, which is an exhibit now at the Neue Gallery.
Mhm.
And I have not seen that exhibit, but
I
I've
have.
you have. Oh, okay. How is it?
It's excellent. It's
Well,
really,
well,
it's
yeah,
really interesting. Yeah.
that's such an amazing museum. I mean,
Mhm.
this man, Lauder has a printing press in the basement, and
That's
he
right.
prints up money, and he just does the art thing. So, and he has very good taste. So he not only has a lot of money, but he has really good taste. So then in the last class, uh, I'm going to ask you to compare two pictures of either the same artist or two different artists. So that will end the term. Um, so tonight I thought we'd go over the artist Frida Kahlo, and I forgot to mention something just before about surrealism. Who asked that question about surrealism? Who was I talking to about that? Oh, okay, Chuck. So what I forgot to say, Chuck, was that another artist, coincidentally, the artist we're going to speak about tonight, is very concerned with surrealism, and that is Frida Kahlo. So it sort of is in the air, but it's actually a very interesting subject, surrealism, and a very interesting idea. Um, and there is some figurative art that is not surrealistic, and there is some figurative art that is surrealistic. So it goes in different ways. Some of my own art is surrealistic, and some of it is not. So it's kind of interesting. So Frida Kahlo, her dates are 1907 to 1954. Um, so now Frida Kahlo is a kind of worldwide cult figure. But I first saw her work in 1983, and it was not very well known at all. There was an exhibit in New York in 1983 at um, the Gray Art Gallery at NYU. And this was the first time I ever saw her work. So it was an exhibit of her paired with another woman, Mexican, whose name is Tina Modotti, Modotti, Tina Modotti. So Tina Modotti is a photographer, an art photographer, and a model, very good artist, and Frida Kahlo. The exhibit was hands down remarkable. Okay. Uh, Incendiary, explosive, powerful. Um, a French critic um, and exponent of surrealism, Andre Breton, made a statement that where he called Frida Kahlo's work a ribbon tied around a bomb. It's a very interesting statement, and when you see her work, when I present it, you'll see why he said that. A ribbon tied around a bomb. Um, the work that I saw was a revelation to me. I saw this exhibit 5 times, and one of the times I brought my daughter to see it, which is maybe a little questionable, but I was so enthusiastic. I brought my daughter to see it. She was maybe 10, about to be 11. And I've seen her work many times and traveled to see it. And in one of my travels, I believe to London, I was looking at her work and I thought, what did I do? What did I do? What a stupid thing to do. So you'll see what I'm saying in a second. Um, but I think what uh, maybe beyond her work, what I was conveying was enthusiasm and respect for a woman and respect for a woman who was putting her message out and a woman who was an artist and who really cared about art and presenting art. So, you could argue maybe there was an influence in seeing this show, but strong, very strong stuff. Um, Her father, Frida Kahlo's father, was German and a photographer. And I always thought the father was partly Jewish, but in my new reading for this class, I've realized that's not the case at all. So we have to say unclear. And she ends up marrying Diego Rivera, and I also thought that Diego Rivera's part of his family was Jewish, and that is also not the case. So both those um, uh, not clear. Um, okay, so her work is very influenced by a, an indigenous Mexican art called retablos, Retablos. So retablos is actually quite interesting. Um, so retablos are paintings done on copper or tin, very, very small, like 8 by 10, 9 by 12 inches, really small. And they were done by artists who traveled around and they did these paintings as offerings to the church or as offerings to a family or as offerings to help a sick child. They were like itinerant painters who did this. And her paintings are all, except for a few, very small, 9 by 12, um, not, uh, 10 by 13, 12 by 15, very small, almost like these retablos. And they have a kind of spiritual side, but another side which is very upending and very explosive. Um, Many of her strongest paintings are located in Mexico City, but are not at the Blue House, which is where she lived, but are part of a collection of art of a woman named Dolores Olmedo. So there's a museum now, Museum of Dolores Olmedo. So who is Dolores Olmedo? She was a woman, very wealthy woman, who was a friend more of Diego Rivera than of Frida Kahlo. And she might have even been a lover of Diego Rivera, not clear. But in any case, she has these paintings because these paintings were not sold in Frida Kahlo's lifetime. So if you're interested in this theme and you find yourself in Mexico City, that's a fantastic museum. And she has the toughest paintings of Frida Kahlo. So when those paintings travel, they end up in Paris or in New York or Minnesota or wherever they end up, they usually come from that collection of Dolores Olmedo. Um, in Frida Kahlo's lifetime, she was really the wife of Diego Rivera. Okay, she was not extolled as an artist um, almost to the end of her life. Um, Diego Rivera was like the George Washington of art. He was a revered um, uh, Mexican painter, um, and he did huge murals. And I've always wanted to see the mural that is in Detroit of Diego Rivera. Have any of you seen that? Ah, okay, okay. I've heard it's quite amazing. And is that true, Lucia? Is it true? Pretty amazing?
Hold on. Yes,
Yeah,
it's fascinating and it's huge and it's an entire room,
yeah, yeah,
the walls and then part of the ceiling. And the actual ceiling, I believe, was glass.
yeah,
It's superb and there's so much going on. And of course it has the theme is really the working man, but with so many other things intertwined. Very interesting. I went there the next day also because the museum is exceptional and
yeah,
I had to go see it again. Yes, it's absolutely beautiful.
yeah. I think
Definitely one of the most exquisite and important works of art that I've seen in my life.
wow, wow. The interesting thing about Frida Kahlo's work is her work is as small as Diego Rivera's is large. It's smaller than your screen. Okay.
So they lived there, the two of them, for quite a long period of time. I think a couple of years, maybe longer, while he worked on the mural. The entire museum, when I was there, I only saw one painting by Frida Kahlo
Hmm, hmm.
in that museum. She wasn't really working when she lived there. She didn't produce that much art.
All right, let me keep going. Um, so Diego Rivera was a very physically big man. Uh, Frida Kahlo small. Um, he was a person who was larger than life. There are some people that you'll meet who are larger than life. Um, and he was actually a child prodigy. Uh, some of his early drawings are simply incredible. And there are very few fine art child prodigies. Child prodigies in terms of music, many, not many, but quite a few. But in terms of fine art, very few. And he really was one of them. Um, her life is foreshadowed by an accident that she has on a in a bus. And in this bus, she's traveling along. There's some tremendous accident, and uh, a spike falls on the bus, hits her, and is driven through her back. Uh, if I'm not 100% right about it, I'm quite close. Um, so in her lifetime, she has many operations and many medical procedures to deal with this. Um, and some of these are she does paintings of. Okay, so I would divide her work into three parts. So this is just my take on it. So the first part would be very small, very expressive paintings that come out of this retablo um, tradition. Um, very expressive, and maybe some very painful. And a second group, very dramatic self-portraits. And the third group would be a group of photographs of her taken by a whole variety of photographers. Um, she is an individual that, that every now and then you see someone like this, an individual that never took a bad photograph. Okay, this is rare, but there are individuals that look like this, and that's one of their hallmarks. They never take a bad photograph. So I would say Samuel Beckett would be another person like this. Um, two quotes from her life, and then I'm going to show you a lot of pictures. I paint myself because I am often alone, and I am the subject I know best. Second quote, I never painted dreams, I painted my own reality. Um, okay, so let me see if I can get that um, the the slides uh, done here. Does anyone have a question? Just okay. Let me do this. Okay. So this is a very small painting. I would say it's about 15 inches high. Very, very small, and it is in that retablo tradition. I don't have what's in front of me, what the support is on this, but I would guess it's metal, either copper or iron, copper or tin, or maybe wood. Um, and so seeing this painting and other paintings which you're going to see was uh, a tremendous revelation for me. And I think that exhibit at the Gray Art Gallery had a tremendous effect on her importance. And she really, I mean, she was maybe this was 30 years after she had passed away. So this is also very unusual. In this painting, I think she imagines the metal support that is holding her up. And I've never seen anything like this. And it's really, to me, totally stunning. Um, very surreal, but actually not surreal.
Simon, do you think that's metal? It looks to me, at least in the small reproduction on my screen, like it's a broken classical column.
Yes, it does look like that, but I think it's a metal support for her. But that I don't know. I'm not sure. That's what I think. So this is the second image. So this is an advertisement actually at the Museum Dolores Olmedo. This is a very wealthy woman, and the museum is in her house, very large house in Mexico City. Absolutely worth seeing. In fact, the whole trip to Mexico City is phenomenal. I think we visited for 2.5 weeks and saw great art every single day. In this museum, many works of art and um, grounds that had animals walking around, including peacocks, and really striking. Um, so this is the next painting I have of hers. Um, so this painting is called something like What the Water Gave Me or What the Water Told Me. I can't remember the exact title. This is larger. And all right, so there's something about the collage in this which also I found to be a revelation. So the multiplicity of visual cues that are going on in here provide something that's greater than one image. And it is figurative, it is realistic, but it is really pushing at the boundaries of figurative art. And this type of collage actually I found to be very influential for me. So just as with Lopez, seeing her work expanded my idea of what art should be or what art could be. And it meant that it's whatever the art needed. It's not preordained. I imagine when she did this, she was in a bathtub, and I imagine, I'm not sure of this, but I imagine that she's looking at her feet and the reflection of her feet. Um, I really like this painting and the whole image of it. Um, so this one is again much larger in format. In fact, this is, I think, the largest painting of hers. I believe it is located in a museum in Mexico City. Uh, I could be mistaken, but that's what I remember. And she's very big on describing her bloodline, her the biological bloodline that runs through her life. And I believe that there's some feeling in the painting which has to do with the European, the Mexican, the indigenous Mexican, all of that meeting in her. I think this is a painting about maybe 5 feet high, but this is really the largest painting. And I I found this image, uh, which gives you an idea of how large this painting is. Um, okay, so this one is fascinating. So this is really small. This is maybe 9 by 12, 12 inches high, 9 by 9 wide. Um, so um, the painting is located at the Museum of Modern Art. The last time I was there, this was on display. I think it's extremely striking, and it has something to do with her husband, Diego Rivera, and their splitting up. And as a result of this, she cuts her hair, and her hair is all around the place. And um, it's full of pain and pathos. And I found very interesting part in her biography about this painting, which I didn't know until a few days ago. And I really know about her and her life, but this I didn't know. So this painting was owned by a man named Edgar Kaufman, and he donated the painting to the Museum of Modern Art. So not when he bought it, but now this is an extremely valuable painting, extremely expensive, whatever. So he donates the painting to the Museum of Modern Art. He is quite a well-to-do person, but of great interest, he is from a family that is quite well-to-do. And his parents um, own Falling Water. Okay, this is amazing. His parents own Falling Water, and I believe commissioned Frank Lloyd Wright to design and build Falling Water. Okay, so one of the things I read about this, which struck me as quite funny, um, so Frida Kahlo, though she had physical infirmities, was a woman who had a great zest for life, and her zest for life included um, many affairs with both men and women. And so she goes to visit these people in Falling Water with her gallery dealer. And um, in the article I read, now I maybe some of you who've been there will correct me, but it said that there are two winding staircases in this house, and she flirts with two of the men at this party, and the two men believe that they're going to um, have something happen with her. And they both, at a certain point, start walking up these two winding staircases, and they meet at the top. Okay, they look at each other, and they both go back to the bottom. Then they wait a bit. They do the same thing. They meet at the top. Then one of them goes back to his room. This is the gallery dealer, goes back to his room and opens the door. And who does he see inside but our friend here, Frida Kahlo? Um, well, I didn't know anything about the connection with Frank Lloyd Wright, so that's what I'm trying to say. Um, Here's another painting of hers. This is also very small and so um, strong and um, tough and full of combustion. I mean, like for another artist, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, how do you think this up? This is like dazzling. Um, she looks like a baby and a grown woman. Here's another one. Again, very small. I would say 12 inches wide. This one is very interesting. This one, she, as I said, she has a very great interest in her um, uh, family, her familial background. So this is her family tree, and it's a curious painting in the world of fine arts. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. So she's tracing the Mexican part of her family and the European part. This is her father, just above her to the right, with the mustache, who was a photographer. And her father, her grandfather, is on the top left, all the way on the top left. Now, if you think back to what I said about my daughter, this painting was one of the strongest paintings at
Hmm.
the Gray Art Gallery. And so um, I'd like to read something to you about this painting, which I found when I was preparing for this class. Um, Again, very small painting, and literally to me, like nothing I've seen. Um, Diego Rivera, Frida's dear husband, encouraged her to start the project to paint her major life events to a series of paintings. This painting is the first one in her series. She remarked, how this painting is about how I imagined I was born. And in her journal, Frida says this painting depicts she was giving birth to herself. In this painting, the head of Frida, which is frighteningly large, is getting out of the mother's womb. There is a puddle of blood under the mother's body, which might be a hint of Frida's own experience with the recent miscarriage. A sheet covers the mother's face, which might be from the recent event of the death of Frida's mother. Above the birthbed, a picture of weeping Virgin of Sorrows hangs above. The Virgin looks on in tears and sorrow and sympathy, but seems she can do nothing about the situation. Although this painting was painted in the style of an ex voto retablo, nothing was written on the unfurled scroll at the bottom. Maybe she felt she cannot describe her feeling about a woman undergoing childbirth. This painting may have also been influenced by a 16th century sculpture of the Aztec goddess, can't pronounce this, Tlazotl, giving birth to an adult male warrior. Pop star Madonna collected this painting. In an interview with Vanity Fair, Madonna said she used this painting to tell who is her friend and who is not. If somebody doesn't like this painting, Madonna said, then I know they cannot be my friend. Listen to this. If somebody doesn't like this painting, Madonna said, then I know they cannot be my friend. So Madonna actually buys this painting from the Kaufman family in 1987. And I think she still owns the painting.
Mhm.
Um, so another painting in this direction is this one. Again, very small in the 8 by 10, 9 by 12 area.
I think it's fine.
Um, Another painting like this in a similar kind of composition is this one. Um, and this one I think was called something like A Few Little Nips.
It's
It
small.
came, it came from an actual event that took place where a woman was murdered in this manner. You see, she paints the frame, the whole thing. Um,
Hmm.
Very interesting imagery connected with the moon, the sun, um, multiple points of view. I think that this coming one is even smaller, like maybe 6 by 9 inches, very small. It, I believe it's of her wearing a mask. Uh, Keep it a little longer. Um, the subject matter in her work is fascinating and very audacious, very bold. Um, really gets underneath your skin. This is her and Diego, and she does a whole bunch of paintings which have botanical forms in them, and this is one where things seem to grow out of people and objects. One thing that just occurred to me to say is that the last exhibit or two that I went to of her work, um, there's like an incredible silence that's there. And as much as she's a high cult figure, when you see her work in person, especially this group, there's a complete silence. And it's just really riveting. This is a very small painting, and what she's doing is she's depicting her doctor. And the palette almost has like a viscera or heart.
Right.
Um, the juxtaposition of very small and big forms in here is quite striking. So, so for a person who is directing themselves at a more traditional, realistic direction, she's really in these paintings is breaking so many rules, so many um, classical rules of painting that some people have a lot of difficulty with this. Um, I don't know. I just immediately was struck by it. So
Can
that,
you,
yeah.
Simon, could you say a little bit more about the rules she's breaking here?
Well, I think, yeah, that's a good question. I think that um, there's a kind of primitive quality going on. You could see that in her face here, and the articulation of her form. Um, it's not rounded up, extremely rendered, but I don't think that that's her object. I think her object is um, her heart, uh, her inner pain, her turmoil, um, her body. Her body is a subject. Um, so the skill set that a traditional realistic artist would be encouraged to learn is off to the side of what makes this strong. I I I think I'm pretty sure I'm right about this.
I was wondering, Simon, did she have any classical training? Did she have a art?
I think she had some classes that she took. I don't know how many classes. I think that she might have been taught by Diego Rivera. Um, I think he thought a great deal about her work. I think at one point he actually said that she's going to be more well known than he will be, but she was completely unknown for most of her life. Um, if I took what Marianne is saying, I would say that the classical training that a figurative artist goes through is not really relevant for her. It's something beyond that, or to the side of it, or underneath it, or in the guts. So then this grouping of work, which are more or less self-portraits, are a little different than these, or maybe a lot different, but also have a certain kind of buzz to them, which is very appealing, but are really different than these. So I'll show you some of that second theme. But even in this one, frankly, the Diego on her forehead is um, just different. I mean, it's not a traditional way of painting. She was very big on wearing clothes of different groups of Mexican people and dressing up. Um, these paintings are larger.
Simon, do you know which, if any of these paintings predate her injury in the bus accident? If
I think all of them are after. I think her bus accident occurred when she was a teenager. I think all of this is after. And in fact, she meets Diego Rivera after that accident. She sees him working, uh, she's traveling, she sees him working on a scaffold or something like that. And she's very taken with him. This is a big time love affair. Uh, they marry, they divorce, they marry. This is like um, a film love affair.
Yeah, she was 18 when that accident happened.
Yeah, yeah. Um, some of these self-portraits have animals, monkeys. I think that in her house there were monkeys that lived, and birds, and the blue house is fascinating, absolutely fascinating, really worth seeing. Very close to the blue house, a few blocks away, is uh, a very simple house in which Leon Trotsky lived. Okay, so if you are visiting the Blue House, you could take a little walk and see where Trotsky lived, and that's fascinating. And there are pictures of Trotsky and Frida Kahlo and Trotsky's wife and Frida Kahlo and Trotsky. And Trotsky was actually killed in Mexico,
Yeah.
Mexico, and the thought is that she and Trotsky had some kind of extra affair. Um, and when you look into Trotsky's house and you see the way he lived, um, nothing extra, just books, more books, papers, so forth. Nothing frivolous, nothing extra, nothing passionate, no art, just just the life the life of a Marxist. Uh, uh, okay, maybe somewhat boring, but Marxism, and then he sees Frida, okay, and can't take his eyes off. Um, Here's another one. This dog in the front, I believe they collected these dogs, which are sort of very strange looking Mexican dogs. Hairless, I think. This is another one. I could have shown many more of these, but this is a good example. Then there are a small group of photographs that I pulled out which show this magnetic quality that this woman had. So this is an early photograph, and she's really a spectacular woman. So she appears at the left, um, very coquettish and very attractive in dressing up as a man. Um, Beautiful, beautiful woman. I think her sister maybe is at the bottom on the right or just above her on the right. Not sure which one is her sister. So this is another photograph of Frida. Oh, this is too bad. This is hard to see. Oh, too bad. Here's another one. Many, many, many photographs of her. You look at the rings on her hand and the bracelets and her headpiece. This is really over the top. And she wore corsets to hold herself together. And I think she painted a lot of her paintings in bed.
She did.
Yeah. Those two places in Mexico City are two of many very interesting museums and locations that are there that are well worth seeing. Um, this is really, really stunning. Totally over the top. Really, really wild. A lot of interest in communism,
Mhm.
hammer and sickle. Uh,
Mhm.
Not only communism, but the style of communism. Not only Marxism, but the style of Marxism. She once wrote something about Diego Rivera that he liked to paint in blue overalls that went up to his chest, but they had to be the right color blue, just the right color. He was very picky about his blue workman's overalls. This woman literally could not take a bad photograph. This is just stunning.
And the painting behind her is the few small nips.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very striking. And the subject matter of that painting is, you would not think that that's a subject matter in a fine art painting, but she's pushed the boundaries as to what painting could be, at least for me, I think.
So Simon, I would guess just from her expression that a number of these photographs were taken by lovers of hers. Do we know?
By what?
Love it.
By her lovers.
Uh, well, they were, but they were taken by photographers, very good photographers. So some of them,
Yeah,
some of
it looks in some of these photographs as though she's looking back at the photographer in a way that suggests that the photographer was one of her lovers.
yes, that's true. But many photographers took photographs of hers. Some of them were photographers. Some of them were photographers plus, plus, but many photographers. So I have, for instance, a book of photographs of her. I'm crazy about her work. So I have a book of photographs like these of her, and they're taken by many different people. Um, There's another one. Look at this. Look at
Oh,
look at this outfit that she has on. This is quite something. Really quite something. Renee commented that Diego is so ugly, and I don't think so. And he had a lot of girlfriends and very attractive, I think. She said, so ugly, you know. I see him as a kind of crazy life force.
he had an affair with her sister,
Yeah.
and
And
that caused the divorce. Yeah.
yes, and many more.
Oh yeah. No, I know, but
Yeah,
she was.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah, Matthew, you wanted to say something?
He could not always take a good photograph the way she could.
Well, yeah, but she's exceptional. I think he's very interesting looking, but she's off the charts.
I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah.
This
No,
is he had a charisma, but this is not one of his better shots.
yeah, but
Mm.
it's a nice photograph of the two of them.
Mm.
And I think that through their um, up and down moments, I think this was a big time love affair.
Simon, there's a descriptive term that comes to mind that might apply here to him. It's called animal magnetism.
Yes, yes, yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, this is the last one that I have, um, and this might be the book that I have, the cover of this book, but there are a few books of just photographs on her, and I really am very struck by her work. And in setting this up, I didn't set it up for this reason, but I think there is a certain connection between Lopez and this woman. I I can't quite put it into words, but I think it's there. But I'd have difficulty saying more about it. But somewhere deep into my head or persona, I see some connection. There's certainly a connection with me in that they both were very important influences and they meant a lot to me. Seeing them meant a lot. So I wonder if we could go back and if I could ask you a few questions. So let me see if I could do this. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, um, curious to know your thoughts about Frida, if anyone would like to chime in. Um, could I call on someone? I thought I'd call on Mr. Frank Horton.
Um, no, I'm
And
still,
let me ask you something to start with.
yeah.
I'm playing around with you, but let me ask you something to start with. Did you know her work before this?
No, I mean, I took a trip to Mexico City and I tried to go to her house and the line was, like 50 blocks long. And so, and I didn't get to go see Dolores Olmedo's house, but now,
Her house is not well known. That's
oh,
it's not well known at all. People would not even understand what you're talking about. But that place, if they don't have the work on loan, has the best work.
mm.
The work that is the strongest.
Well, so I mean, I really would like to, it's kind of work that I'd love to see in person because again, the size, of the work that draws you in so close and so intimate and so like I feel like, yeah, it's just one of those the kind of work that you have to bury your nose in almost, like get so close to and explore. But I still like I'm still trying to like absorb her. Like it's like overwhelming kind
Yeah.
of. I feel
Yes,
like
I agree. I agree.
I'm like kind of I'm like befuddled a little.
No, no, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. That's very good. I aim for that.
Okay.
No, that's very good. That's very good. That's very mean.
Um, but the one thing I was thinking is that I really like this kind of organic quality that she has even when she's not doing like something particularly like plants or anything. The curve of the lines,
Yeah,
like it all has a natural feel to it in
yeah,
a very subtle way.
yeah, yeah,
It's really appealing. That kind of naturalism with geometric forms.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. So, but yeah, I'm still.
I put you on the spot. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, no, no. It's nice and kind of overwhelming, her work.
Anyone else want to pitch in? I'm gonna have to call on someone then.
I'll speak, Simon.
Oh, okay.
I think, when looking at her life as a semi-invalid,
Yeah,
somebody who's artistic, who spends long periods of time in enforced separation from the world, becomes very inward. And I think that's very evident in everything that she paints. She's always looking inward. She's
yeah,
obsessed with her inner world. Unfortunately, I think Diego becomes one of her obsessions in that inner world as time goes on. And it's interesting to ponder what would have happened had she not been totally overshadowed both by her handicap and by Diego.
I think your point is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Uh, one of the criticisms of her work is that I don't agree with this, but one of the criticisms is that it's very narcissistic. Okay. And I found myself thinking a lot about that. And I, 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 there are many narcissists that I've met, and many of them are pretend narcissists or pretentious narcissists. She is a real narcissist. She's the real deal. Okay. So I really love it. I love the whole thing. Um, and I think you're absolutely right about the alone part. That's a brilliant point. Um, anyone else want to pitch
Yes,
in?
Simon, I have a comment, if I may, and a question.
Sure.
As to her artistic education is concerned, I read on Google that it was very early on in her childhood and young teenager that she was undoubtedly artistically very talented.
Yeah.
But she was not interested at all to become an artist. She wanted to become a medical doctor.
Yes.
And in fact, the bus accident was on her way home from college, all right, to
Yeah.
home. And then when she was in bed, her mother gave her a kind of easel that she could lay on her chest, and her mother installed a mirror on the ceiling so she could paint herself. And that's slowly when she decided during her recovery, it took many months, that she forgone the idea of becoming a doctor and she wanted to become an artist.
Excellent, excellent.
The question I have is, how is she now considered by collectors and in musea and in auction houses?
The that exhibit that I described in 1982, 83 began an avalanche of response to her work. You see, because she fit into many movements that were taking place at the very same time. Movements connected with feminism, with women, with surrealism, different points of view in art. It, she just caught a wave, and there's been so many exhibits of her work, and she is, you know, a worldwide, world-class artist. And I've seen exhibits of her work in London, in Paris. I have many books on her work, and but I really think she's the real deal. I mean, it's like she is a cult figure. So if you go to see an exhibit of her work in the store next to the exhibit, when the exhibit ends, there are a million different Tinker Toys with her picture on it. But you know, sometimes you have to separate that from the reality of what you're looking at. So I I think she's quite amazing. So, you know, that's my take. But there are other people who really dislike it. Okay. So it's not 100% that I'm right. I'm just saying, I just think she's everything that an artist should be. That's my opinion.
What don't they like?
The narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The constant projection of herself. Um, that's you know, and the excessive exploitation of pain. Now, you could argue the pain part. I think this is interesting. So an artist searches out a theme or tries to find a theme, something that is a signature. And she has that theme because of this accident. Okay. So she doesn't need to search it out. So if you were an artist and you were having difficulty finding that theme, you might almost say, gee, if I had an accident like that, I'd be much better off as an artist because I'd have my reason, my raison d'etre, my goal, my style, and I might not have one hand or one leg or a kidney or whatever.
Here.
You know, I mean, but it's absurd. But anyway, I saw someone. Matthew, did you want to say something? No?
I have a question. Did Diego Rivera ever paint a portrait of Frida Kahlo?
Yes, there is some paintings of her in murals, where she's in one of the figures in a mural. Okay.
I mean, an actual painting of just her, not a mural. Just...
A painting, I don't know, but part of a mural, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Frank McGarry, what do you think?
Well, I'm not sure I have a lot to add. I did really, was really taken by the pain aspect in the paintings. The two of the self-portraits that you showed tonight, Simon. One with the like the column in her abdomen up to her neck. It seemed like she had either pins or nails in her skin.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
those were nails like as part of the column.
yeah,
And the other portrait of her face on the body of like an elk or a deer,
yes, yes,
arrows all in the body of the
yes,
animal.
yes. Well, that's a very interesting point. The arrows, yeah, like
Mhm.
Saint Sebastian.
Or Job.
Yeah, 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 yeah. She's not fooling around. This is serious,
Mhm.
serious stuff.
There was
Uh,
an exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum pre-pandemic,
yes,
not that long ago, a number
yes,
of years ago.
yes, yes. But
That
that,
was a pretty big exhibit, and it had a lot of her clothes,
yes,
uh,
that,
big, colorful dresses,
yes,
some
yes,
films, and some really great paintings.
yes. But it really overdid the clothes part, I thought.
Hmm.
Yeah. But you know, in last year we talked about Colvitts. Okay. There's no comparison between Colvitts and this woman. I mean, this Frida is like you know, a superhero, supercharged, and poor Kata Colvitts is um, back back a bit, which is unfair, but um, too serious, too serious. Not enough color. Um, Wonderful artist and wonderful exhibit at the Museum of Modern Art.
Hmm.
But in terms of celebrity, no comparison to this. This is a big deal. Um, anyone,
Simon,
any well, someone who hasn't.
Simon,
Yeah, yeah,
I think there's there several, like you said, several things came together, feminism and the rise of, in recognition of women in art. But just like an author, most of what you write is about you,
yeah,
different names, different faces. So that she's just painting her experience, which is going to be about her. And yes, it's solitary. And maybe because of an accident of chromosomes, because she's extra beautiful, she became a bit of a poster child for women in art for the last so many years, which the Brooklyn Museum, I was a little disappointed in all the tiny stuff. And then big photo ops for people to take pictures for Instagram, but and then tiny black and white photographs of Mexico. So I didn't get a lot, but there's so much more in Mexico or books. I got to go and see it. But that was my point. I feel like they lost an opportunity. They could have done a little bit more work getting her art.
yes,
Um,
I agree.
and then it wouldn't be as much about her personality and the cult of personality. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
No, no, I agree. I agree exactly. I saw another hand up. Oh, Dean.
Yeah, I don't know if this is just something that came through my mind because we talk a lot about your triptych and the painting that Madonna liked.
Yes,
It the centrality of it, and even the fact that it's kind of the first in a series and it's autobiographical in that sense. The floor lines, it all kind of reminds me of the central panel of your triptych for some reason. And then
that's
the
quite
rectangle
funny.
above
I can't wait to tell my daughter that.
and the round plate, I don't know, it just seems, and I think about too about Antonio when the lady was disputing why he put the tree in the center, because it's like almost too obvious to put something in the center. And he says, well, that's a arbitrary rule. It needs to be in the center. So, I don't know if people tell you that, why did you put your plate right in the center? Isn't that too obvious?
Well, seriously speaking, I think the the painting of Frida that you're referring to is one of the most disturbing paintings I think I've seen. And it's very rare in
Weird, yeah.
the world of fine art to produce a painting that is disturbing. There are only a few in the total history of fine art where you can actually say this is disturbing. And I think maybe if you counted 10, this would clearly be one of the 10. That is definitely fine art, but is, you know, hard to take in. And it's a tough painting, and it's not for everyone. And the curious thing is that it was bought by this family from her, who then sold it to Madonna.
Yeah.
Alan, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, a couple things. Firstly, I've known about her for quite some time. Basically, from your class back in the 80s, we discussed her, and I've seen a lot of her work. But you mentioned earlier about Lopez and she and her kind of some connection. I don't know if I agree with that, because I mean they do both paint their world, that's for sure, and they both say they are, but it's a different world. But about the pain, a lot of I wonder if that she paints some of the purpose of painting that is for us, for us to feel that pain. Because I certainly do.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that the painting we were just talking about was disturbing. Well, I mean, a lot of them are disturbing, but a lot of them are also so unusual.
Yes, yes, yes.
You've never seen anything like that before, kind of.
Yes. You almost say to yourself, how did you think of that?
Yeah.
I mean, really, how did you think of that? It's not just, you might say, how did you think of that composition? That would be one thing, but this is more than that. This is, how did you think of that? I mean,
Drugs?
I like that. I like that. If I feel that and I look at something and I think I can go with that and I think, how did you think of that? Boy, that's quite something. I mean, I mean, as an architect, you might look at a building, you've seen something like it, but then you might look at a building and you've seen nothing like it, and you
Right. Oh yeah.
say to yourself, wow, how did that person think of that? I always think that's a great compliment. I want to know more about that person, more about that artist. To me, yeah, I saw
Jacqueline raised an interesting point, though.
Yeah.
Drugs involved?
I I don't know. I don't think so, but if they are, maybe they're like I don't know. I don't think so, but
I believe she was on painkillers, not necessarily.
Oh, well.
Positive.
So you could your imagination could be very easily loosened by painkillers.
Hmm.
You could imagine things on painkillers that you never would imagine otherwise. I'm sure it helped.
Jackie, do you have any take further on her work? Did you know all the pieces that I?
No, not at all, not at all. But I've been thinking about your appreciation of both Lopez and her, and aside from the fact that they're both Hispanic, what's there in common? Although Lopez was at times hyper realistic, he also had these leaps of imagination and strangeness injected into some of his work that she
magnified 20 times. But maybe that's, you know, for her, maybe was it magic realism? For him, was it something, I don't know. I don't know what you call it.
I think they're both magic realists.
Okay,
Yeah,
you
but
would know.
now I'm rethinking this in terms of Alan's point. The possibility of the subject matter being much larger than I had imagined, uh, being more whatever goes, as long as you can back it up and make it poetic and imaginative, connects those two artists. Very big subject matter, wide subject matter. So, for instance, with Lopez, the end of a meal or a bathroom, or with Frida, um, giving birth to herself, um, um, a murder scene. These are expansions of the potential of fine art. So maybe that's somewhere in it to me. And maybe it's a little bit of the doing this to traditional realistic art. You know, it's like the anti-hero, you know, uh, I'm not necessarily following the rules. I'm following my own rules. Maybe that's a connection as well. Not sure. Someone who
Sam,
has
can I chime in with something? Because I'm struck less by the commonality between the two and more by what seems to me at least a contrast between the two. And that is, I don't know how much this is true, but my own sense is that Kahlo was somebody who needed to express herself and what she felt, and painting was the medium through which she did that. And Lopez was somebody whose fundamental need was to paint and to draw, and the search for subject matter was secondary to that need.
Yes, I agree with that. I think you're right. I think you're right. But without thinking too much about it, looking at it quickly, both had subjects which I would never think would be subjects at 40, 50 years ago. It wouldn't even occur to me that a bathroom, a toilet bowl would be a subject. Um, I mean, I'm not a prophet, so I mean, toilet bowl, come on. Uh, um, Anna, what do you think? I can't hear you.
I just had to unmute. I guess I'm thinking that, I don't know, they're very, very different, but the passion is the same, and maybe that's what it is. It's both paintings you feel so deeply with each piece, whether or not you relate to it or not, like, and Frida, in some ways, much more shocking, Yeah.
I just thought of something else. Now, just came to me, but I wouldn't have thought of this. Both have a kind of primitive force that's at its best, that pushes out of the image. And I like that. I like that. It's not nicey. It's like some kind of primitive energy that's pushing out. Len, what do you think?
So I find a grave sorrow in her work, and I know of her. I've seen her work, and for me, there's always like a buffer between me and the work. And I think, Rita kind of had made a little unlock for me with the cerebral, inward looking nature of her work. One might say it's narcissistic, it's selfish, but it's also very honest. right? It's very true to who she was, what she wanted to do. Um, get the sense that she was really painting for herself. She wasn't really painting for other people. But where I kind of land is there's an interesting contradiction for me in that you might think when work is very, very honest, that it makes it accessible, that it draws you in, or that it makes the art easy to understand. But for me, it's a total contradiction, because even though the art is very honest, I still feel it to be inaccessible and hard to, gestalt and understand.
That's a good point. Jackie?
Art says to me, this woman is angry. She has lots of reason to be angry, but that's what strikes me the most. I feel it.
So does the anger become fine art?
She makes it fine art. Her own kind of fine art.
I think it's very strong.
Yeah, it is very strong. It's trippy.
It's what?
Trippy.
Trippy. Trippy. What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean.
She's almost hallucinating.
Yeah. Trippy. I see what you
Yeah.
said. Donna, did you seem to want to say something?
Oh, no, I'm not real familiar. I've seen her stuff. I was, more or less thinking along the lines of the familial context of her and Lopez, and that it was kind of a reinforcing context because, well, his family seemed, very supportive and containing of all that he did. Hers, similar. I find it interesting because, she has that combination of the German paternal side and the colorful cultural background of her Mexican maternal side. So surrounded by all this color and family, I don't know how to say it, maintenance, support, then early trauma at 18, it seems like she has transcended much of that trauma and pain, incorporated it into her daily moment to moment life. And, with the feminist aspect too had dawned on me because she has acquired this independent spirit, and I think the family had much to do with that, or some impact on it. So she never had brakes on, it seems, and really did transcend boundaries. But she had her own narcissistic existence that allowed her to do this. In other words, she didn't seem to be really out there within her culture expressing all of this stuff and getting all kinds of possibly negative feedback at that point. So she did have the freedom to pursue everything she was experiencing. And that it culminated, I guess, much of it post-mortem, due to some of the newer cultural experiences of feminism and surrealism going on that made her own original thoughts kind of rise to the surface that they never had that opportunity to do when she was young or doing them. So, I mean, I just find the whole thing very amazing.
Amazing. Amazing
Yeah.
is right. Amazing is right. Becky?
You said that she was not appreciated as an artist in her lifetime, but her husband was. And I'm sure that made her angry too. And there are lots of artist couples, at least historically, where that has been the case, that the husband's art was appreciated and the wife's wasn't until, much later, if at all. So Lopez, it sounds like he was married to an artist. Have we heard of his wife's work? I don't know. You would know better than I. But I.
Not so much.
It, just this last point, and I think this is enough. It was a movie, a really popular movie that was made about Frida's life. There was a very attractive Spanish woman who played Frida.
Penelope Cruz? Was it Penelope Cruz?
Selma Hayek. Selma Hayek.
Selma Hayek, yeah.
Selma Hayek. Yes. I remember seeing the film, and the film sweetens her life. If you see it again, you'll realize what I'm saying is that that whole grouping of works that I showed you to begin with is completely bypassed in the film. So the film concentrates on those self-portraits that come afterwards. And I think that was sort of a mistake to me because the pain and the anguish that are in those smaller works are really part of her signature. And by not showing that, you're kind of brightening up her life. And I think her life is so great because it has so many different sides to it. And it's a very big life. She got her money's worth, very big life. And it would be rare to have a bigger life than that. So next week, we're going to do Paula Moderson Becker. And thank you very much for your wonderful involvement. And I'll see you next week.
Good night,
Bye now.
everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Right. Thank you, Simon.
Good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
Great seeing you.
Yeah, thank you.
Simon,
Yes.
one that we haven't discussed much, but you alluded to, there's another factor here, Marxism. It's an
Yes.
effect on her painting because
Yes.
Marxism is about suffering in the masses. And
Yes.
so a lot of her work, she's suffering, but can she be healed? So I mean, there's more to it than that. That's simplistic. But I think we need to consider that in evaluating some of her paintings.
That's a very good point. I actually want to ask you a question. If you could just hold on a second.
Oh, Simon, I just wanted to tell you that I started NYU in 1983, and
Oh,
I
really?
wandered into Gray Art Gallery. I remember,
Wow. You saw that exhibit?
yes.
Wow. Wasn't that
And
something? Wasn't that exhibit something?
I didn't know what I was walking into. I never saw anything like it before. So, yeah, it
Oh,
was, I remember it vividly.
imagine taking my 10-year-old daughter to see this. Oh, crazy. Uh,
I'm sure she remembers it still too.
She does. Thank you for mentioning that. That's great. That's
Okay.
really great.
Okay, have a good night.
That's probably why Simona chose music instead of art.
Yeah. That's right.
You were waiting for that.
Yeah.
You were waiting for that.
Right.
Oh, naughty.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Right. Good night.
Oh, you, okay. Uh, Stop recording.